We'll get sober. We'll do our thing like we normally do, but welcome to the stream. Shout out to everybody on Kick. Shout out to everybody on Rumble. All right, so breaking news. We do have Kanye West that has showed up to the courtroom today, which is one of the final day, supposedly, of Jane Doe being on the stand. Now, Jane Doe was rumored to not only have participated in hotel nights, aka freak-offs with Diddy, but also with another rapper / mogul. Now, the signs all point to maybe Kanye West. However, in that particular freak-off that she described, that may have featured one Kanye West and maybe his lover / girlfriend / wife at the time, Bianca Censori, it appears that she wasn't fucking. It was a voyeuristic type event. They went to Vegas. There was a sex worker that Jane Doe, aka Daphne Joy, was familiar with. They showed up to a hotel suite, and when they walked in, it was about 7 of them, Ye, allegedly, or a rapper, allegedly, and his girl, so maybe Ye and Censori. Also Daphne Joy, but keep in mind there were 4 other people. Which means possibly 2 other couples that might also be rappers or within the rap industry. All 7 people stood there and they watched sex take place on a bed between a sex worker, a man named Anton. Okay? Niggas describe him as, or at least Diddy was described as hung like a horse. He was donkey fucking some chick on a bed and people were watching. And I don't know. It was like, I guess it's watching like horse racing or boxing. Apparently it was so lit to the point that Daphne Joy, in the heat of the moment, she flashed her titties to the group, okay? Today's her last day on the stand. We're having cross redirect and some other stuff. And after this, by the way, the government has announced their case against Diddy will be wrapped, hopefully, by Wednesday. If not Wednesday, Thursday is Juneteenth, from what I've been told. So it will be wrapped by latest Friday. So after next week, Diddy could either rest or choose not to present a side, and we go immediately to a verdict. But from what is being forecasted, Diddy's team plans a lengthy rebuttal to everything that's being said. We haven't seen a few people take the stand. For example, KK, Christina Karam. Are you going to say this guy has a racketeering enterprise and everything that's being done is being facilitated by his assistants, but specifically his chief of staff, Christina Karam, but she does not take the stand. She's not charged from what we know. She's not listed as a co-conspirator from what we know, nor she is a victim. She is just mentioned multiple times. If Diddy brought her, it would be a roll of the die, because when you do bring someone, you open them to cross-examination. I could tell you the prosecution probably regretted bringing Dawn Richards, or Rashad actually. She got exposed. Banna, she was exposed for being pretty much a crack addict. And when I say crack addict, I mean it in tongue-in-cheek, because she was exposed to be a drug fiend. So her testimony was unreliable. She quoted dates that Diddy was not even on the same coast with her. It looked bad. Those 2 people, I'm pretty sure that the AUSA, the government, regretted bringing on. If Diddy puts up a case, will he bring on D-Rock? We've heard his name many times. Uncle Paulie, we've heard his name many times. I would think not with Roger Bonds, because he's doing interviews already, and they're going to move to push to include his interview statements if he's trying to switch up or do anything else. So they probably wouldn't want to open that Pandora's box. But there's a lot of people we have heard about, but we're not seeing. Christina Karam would be the Ghislaine Maxwell. She's not here at all. There is a victim that's in the wings. She was notated as victim number 3. Her name is Gina Hill. Somehow she spoke with the government. The government included her in an indictment, which means she testified at a grand jury. And she must have testified things to the effect that Diddy abused her, Diddy sexually assaulted her, or Diddy sex trafficked her. However, she is no longer available for the government for testimony. She might have went on a vacation. Go look in Turks. She might be in Turks, chat. Why is she in Turks instead of the trial? Don't ask me. Use your brain. So Gina is not going to participate. It doesn't appear that D-Rock, Uncle Paulie, James Cruz, some of the names we were really interested in. Even there was a, I forgot his name. He's the Harv Pierre. These are the people who were top-ranking executives in Diddy's bad boy organization or Combs Enterprise. They are not included in the government's case. So what type of organization could this be? We've heard testimony from a lot of assistants. I think about 4 or 5 at this point. We've heard a lot of testimony from people who identify themselves as sex workers. I believe it's 3 at this point. We've heard from hotel staff. We've heard from investigators, arson investigators. We've even heard from a clinical psychiatrist who was there to break down the cycles of abuse and the mentality of an abuse victim to make it make sense. We've heard from Cassie. We've heard from Gina. No, not Gina. I mean Daphne Joy. We've heard from someone named Mia, but we know her name is Sarah Snecker. We've heard from Deontay. We've heard from who else? Oh, there's been so many assistants. Capricorn Clark. We've heard from so many people in this trial. If you guys don't know and you're just tuning in, by the way, Drill, make sure you clip this because it's a great monologue. It's day 23, people. We've heard from so many people. If you've been tuning in, we've heard the story left, right, and center. We've heard 5 different versions of the same story. We've heard things we've never heard before. But we are getting to the end of the government's case, okay? Today, Kanye West showed up. Kanye West showed up. After being possibly alluded to, the government protected him by not allowing the witnesses to say his name. But Kanye West showed up in court, and this was him arriving. Here we go. Here's the TMZ videos. Here we go, chat.
Kanye West?
No,
Kanye. Happy to see you.
Yeah.
You don't like.
Another angle.
Thanks for the support.
Yay, where's Bianca?
Kanye, do you think the Illuminati is behind this attack on Diddy?
He dabs up. If you don't know, that's Christian Combs. So Kanye shows up. I believe this is Bianca Sensori. She might have showed up afterwards. He didn't stay long in court. He already left, by the way. He already left.
Kanye, do you think this is an Illuminati attack on Diddy?
Bianca, the Maybach, so clean. I don't like these rims, though. I had the choice to pick these for my bed. I hate these rims. These rims look old. Okay, anyway.
Kanye West.
This was Ye. I think Bianca might have been there, but I don't have any video of Bianca, and it's clear they didn't come together. He hopped out of a Maybach by himself. Hopped out of Maybach by himself. By the way, Christian Combs met him. Christian Combs met him at the door. But there's also a video of Christian Combs entering today. Hold on, give me 1 second. Christian Combs. Give me 1 second. This was Christian Combs' arrival today. Well, this was him meeting Ye.
Good morning, guys.
Kanye.
Okay, now
Supposedly, there were rumors yesterday he was trying to get into court, but it was said that his presence would be too much of a distraction, and he was denied. Supposedly. Let's see if we can. There's a video of Christian Combs' arrival. Let me see if I can find that. There's a lot of things happening today, chat. It's from yesterday. That's him meeting him today. Yes. Ye has shown up to the trial. Okay. All right. Let's get to what's going on in the trial. Chat, I'll talk about, some of the other things you want me to talk about in a little while, but it's important we get into the trial immediately. Let's get the update on what happened. Here we go.
Okay, here we are. Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse today, Friday, June 13th. It's day 23, could it be, of the U.S. versus Sean Combs trial. And we're covering it. Yesterday, finally, after 6 long, grueling days, as they say, the witness known as Jane, Anonymous Jane, finished on the stand. And she finished with some acrimony with Kenny Garagos. And then at the end, apparently they, made up. We'll see. In any case, we covered it in great detail. And in fact, we are now preparing Diddy on Trial Week 5, the book. It's basically, we're just waiting to see what happens today. Today, what? Three, there should be 3 witnesses. Actually, there may only be 2. Seems like the summary chart's getting pushed to Monday. Everything is kind of sliding here. We have the guy. So there is a government witness, and there's a witness who may or may not be a staffer of Sean Combs. Many people were hoping that they'd see Christina Karam. People have been asking whether they'll see D-Rock. Since prosecutor Maureen Comey has said that the government may rest its case as early as next Wednesday, just to say like 5 days from now, 6 days from now, or Friday, with Thursday being a day off, I don't think you're going to see those guys because they would get cross-examined in great detail. And so we'll just have to see. Then the question is what the defense case will be. And the defense overnight put in a letter. We put it up. You can find it on Patreon, but we wrote a story about it as well. They wanted an instruction this morning about perjury, they say, by Bangalan, about the date of the dangling off the balcony and whether the injuries were all caused on the same date.
So they're not letting this idea that Banna, who is pretty much a confirmed previous drug addict, may have gave the wrong date or the wrong incident about Diddy dangling off the balcony. Now, the prosecutor says, this shit happened. She might have not been accurate with the date, but 2 people say the event happened. One, like, at first, Cassie had said another date, then she had said another date, and she convinced Cassie to come to her date to say, it happened then. Apparently, both dates either were not correct or, So, Diddy's team is saying that was a clear lie. That was collusion to some extent. She convinced another witness to believe that an incident happened on a date that it absolutely didn't happen. So we need you guys to tell the jury, do not consider that. Do not consider that. The judge hasn't made a ruling on that yet.
I don't think the government's going to agree to the statement that they've proposed, but you can be the judge, and in fact, we should be tweeting it pretty quickly, pretty soon. So that's where things stand in Diddy's world. Now, on a more serious, I don't want to say more serious, but on the Insurrection Act front, a district court in California, a federal district court, said that it was going to enjoin the deployment of Marines in Los Angeles as illegal, but they stayed their decision to allow an appeal, and lo and behold, the appeal has been successful. The stay has been removed. We've got some leaf blower here.
Hold up.
I don't even know if he's in surgery anymore. There's a poll in which he's ahead of Cuomo. Hard. One of the issues was Andrew Cuomo's plane. I'll do it this way. You can actually see who's driving by the courthouse. Israel on Iran.
Okay. Now, it appears that Ye did a quick in and out. I want to hear about the drama. So there was so much drama that happened last night. So much drama that I think a lot of people were confused last night. Shit. think logic is doing much more than. Okay. We'll just get into the court proceedings today. Here we go. 47 minutes ago, court is in session. AUSA. Hold on. So it seems yesterday, Jane Doe was dismissed. So today, part 2 of comments. What? Day 23. Yeah. Oh, never mind. I think. Okay. So there's 2 parts. Give me 1 second, chat. I'm gonna find it. His comments was actually broken. Okay. Here we go. By the way, I know we jumped really quickly into the trial today, but urgent things call for urgent, means. It matters. Everybody, please check in. Where you from? Where you repping? Would love to know. So for about 4 hours ago, this is where everything started. Ignifilo says, hey, listen, the government has proposed a witness for today that doesn't know how the guns were moved or even put in the supply room. He don't got no personal knowledge. We want him excluded. The judge says, well, he's not an expert witness. He's a fact witness. Now, the AUSA says, well, he was at the premises. The guns were found in the security room. They could cross-examine. There's nothing prejudicial. The judge is saying it's not about prejudice. Ignifilo is going to object to every statement. That's the issue. Ignifilo says, I don't want jurors to see me objecting every time to guns. There's nothing illegal about these guns. Mr. Combs has professional security. The guns were in a safe. The witness is prejudicial. I don't care that they don't know where the Astroglide was. Okay? Ignifilo says, but these are guns. These are guns. By the way, Big Carolina in the building, Boston in the building, Tennessee, Memphis, Brooklyn. Holy. It says, this witness shouldn't testify. Now, this is an important thing, and I wonder what case law supports this. Because the idea of crimes that might consist of weapons, it makes sense. If I supposedly shot someone, and even if they didn't find the gun, but I'm accused of it, it's probably worthy of a testimony, even though I still think it's prejudicial because, I'm a staunch 2A type of guy. If somebody says, Act got 50 guns, he kind of do got a gun that look like that sound like that, or whatever, that could be concealed like that. People would say, well, listen, that's a testimony that could be, evidentiary, not towards, being an eyewitness, but like just towards the knowledge, right? And my defense team could go back and say, well, everybody has guns. Don't you have guns? How does this mean this guy's guilty? I don't like when they try to do this. But especially, I don't like when they try to do this in a case, in a case that's not a gun case. Diddy isn't accused of shooting no one. However, he's accused of taking weapons to try to intimidate or maybe threaten violence. And that's why these guns are coming up. But I still think it's severely prejudicial. And the judge doesn't agree that they should bar anything about the guns unless the guns were illegal. You know what I mean? So Ignifilo is saying, the gun is legal. The fuck are you talking about? The witness shouldn't testify about guns. AUSA says that's how every law enforcement search is done. The property is secured before the search begins. They could ask, and as judge says, Ignifilo, the defense would stipulate that the guns were there, right? Ignifilo says, you're asking for the first time. I know the property well. I've been there many times. The security room has been locked. Judge says, can we find a person who did this? Comey says, may I step up? He says, this is how HSI does searches. They have a team, goes in, make sure the area is safe. They're not experts in collecting evidence. Mrs. Foster can ask about that. I expect he'll say that it was made safe. Okay? Ignifilo says, I'm not seeing how the guns are relevant if they were locked up. Guns are a very divisive issue, which I agree with. Keep in mind, if this was in a district, in a federal district that fell in Texas, they would probably more be able to say, we're not going to be dealing with that because everybody has a right to bear arms. But in a place like New York and the Southern District of New York, which actually has, some of the boroughs and is New York City, their view towards guns is very negative. By the way, if you don't know, this is a super political thing. Every gun law that kind of goes through federally goes through in Texas. Because when Texas federal judges look at shit, they're like, oh, they're supposed to have guns. And then that becomes adopted for, if the Supreme Court looks at it, they might say, oh, okay, that's true. And then you have states like, for example, gun laws have been somewhat relaxed, even though the attorney generals in both New York and New Jersey and some other places have been fighting it because the Supreme Court said, no, wait, hold on now. It came through the circuit court and district court of Texas. Those judges, because they're from Texas, they're going to be like, guns, yes. And the Supreme Court actually agreed with them. So now you have New Jersey and, like, for example, I have a CCW, would never be able to have a CCW in Jersey, or so hard. Before, a couple years ago, when the ruling came down to say it's non-constitutional to not have a pathway for a private, legal, law-abiding citizen to have and bear arms. So then they had to create a way, even if it was complicated or not, for people to carry weapons. Before, they were thinking this, because in Texas, not that many people compared to the square mileage. In New York, New Jersey, everybody's living on top of each other. If everybody got a gun, it might be more violence, so they don't like guns, okay? Anyway, that's a very divisive issue in federal court. And because this federal court is actually in New York City, right? The courthouse for SDNY is literally in New York City. Their views on gun, most likely the people polled in the precincts of that, vicinity are going to be negative against guns, even despite federal gun laws or federal gun statutes or the Constitution. So that's why he's bringing that up, okay? And I probably went long on that explanation, but I hope you get it. The judge says the witness could be asked about this. That's how we'll proceed. Agnifilo says, he had no idea where the guns were found. Agnifilo says, I want to know where the guns are found. I don't want to play Russian roulette with guns. No pun intended, right? So this is how Russian roulette is played, by the way. The judge says the agent could testify now as to the juror. Why can't we bring the juror out today and get to the bottom of what the parties have raised in the submissions they've not put into the docket? So there's a juror, I think it's juror 4. They said there's a issue with what they call lack of candor, which means this person has not been forthcoming or honest with the court or other authorities about their proclivities, their exposures, or their past criminal histories. So if they ask you, have you ever been arrested? And you said, nah, I never been arrested, but you did get arrested because you robbed a candy store and took a bunch of Twix. You have lack of candor issues. And that usually precludes you from being on a jury, because if you would lie about your criminal history, why would you not, be facetious or deceivious, right? Or deceitful in trying to apply justice. Okay? So that's one of the things. We don't know exactly what it is. Agnifilo says the juror is not a professional speaker. These were honest answers. I'm hesitant to raise the issue again and lead the juror to think he said something wrong. The juror's answers are innocuous, which means they're just innocent. Like they're not supposed to mean one way or the other. So we're concerned about his residency. So look like Agnifilo says residency was resolved. This juror is diligent. Let's treat him with respect. So look like now we're kind of get some idea. They probably asked this juror if he was maybe a citizen as opposed to a permanent resident. Now, if you know in the whole maybe you don't know, immigration process, you could be a legal visitor, you could be a legal resident, you could be a permanent resident, and that's all before you become a legal citizen. And a legal citizen is the highest remark of the land. Okay, so look like this guy may have been asked the question, "Which are you?" and he answered. And maybe his answer was not that far off of maybe the reality, because sometimes people who are permanent residents I'll give you, I've gone through, I was a kid when that happened, but I'm very familiar with the immigration process. You're a permanent resident when you get a green card. A green card is a permanent resident card. Okay? Well, usually temporary, then permanent. There's actually, I think, 2 types, if I'm mistaken. When you get your citizenship, you're now not only a resident, but a citizen of the United States. So maybe they asked him, hey, are you a citizen? Maybe he's a permanent resident, and maybe he feels that, because when you're a permanent resident, you're basically on the way, like you're about to be you're just waiting to be a citizen of the United States. Maybe he checked the box, yes, I'm a citizen, right? Because he already is 90% there. And maybe they're saying he's not a citizen, right? And I don't know. I'm only going off of that because they said residency. Now, residency could also mean he claims he lives somewhere or resides in a certain jurisdiction, but he has multiple addresses. I'm going to go with, possibly citizenship and shit like that, okay? Anyway. Judge says there's no issue with qualification to serve. This juror met the qualification at the time. It was vague enough that the answers can be reconciled. So now I'm thinking citizenship. Yes, like I think, for you to serve as a juror in the United States, let's see, citizenship status to serve as juror in U.S. Here we go. To serve, you must be a citizen. Okay. And a resident of the judicial district you're called to serve. So maybe the guy's a citizen, but maybe he doesn't live in that judicial district. Maybe he just moved. I don't know. Okay. There's a bunch of floating ideas. They're not telling us directly, so I have to speculate. So if you see that, be like, I care a little bit off. I'm speculating, all right? Cool. By the way, voice doing good today, chat? Might have to go get some tea again. Might have to bring some fruit back in this too. I'm doing a lot better today. Okay, great. So the judge says there's no issue with the person serving. It's vague enough. The answer could be reconciled. The AUSA wants this person off. It says the juror said multiple things that can't all be true. Additional steps should be taken to protect the record. The judge says my preference would be to run it to the ground and hear from the juror. I expect we will hear a perfectly reasonable explanation. The judge says, but let me say, the allegations in court that the government is engaging in bias, I don't think there's basis in that statement. So here's the thing. Remember, in jury, selection, there was actually a clause that was actually, or an application made by Diddy's defense team to say, like, of the 9 people they dismissed with their preemptive strikes, 8 of them were black. They know Diddy's a black man. They want to make sure the jury's not black. Now, from what I hear, the jury's still about 7 of 5 black. It's still majority black. So Diddy still has mostly black people. But they were worried that of all the people coming out, or when there was a larger pool, I think it was 48, then turned to 43, they had to cut it to 18 because, yes, there's 12 jurors, 6 alternates. What ended up happening is that they had preemptive strikes, right? So you could just, it's like these preemptive flags that you could be like, yo, we want him out, we want him out. For the government, 8 of the 9 people they selected to be out were black, right? And the defense said, whoa, kind of look like y'all are trying to get the black people out of here. So we put the application in. So it was denied at first, but even now they're trying to get another juror out, and apparently this juror is black too. Now, the judge is addressing this and saying, hey, by the way, because I know about the application I made, like, when we were doing jury selection to begin, I don't think that there's any bias with them trying to get this jury out. I don't think they're trying to get them out because they're black. I don't think there was any bias in the jury selection, nor what happened in the roping room. It is understandable that they would raise this in court, though. Shapiro said, we are concerned that if we bring the jury back in for questioning, it may impact their behavior during the deliberations. The judge says, we don't have to get into that right now. Mr. Combs, are you waiving the issue? And Diddy says, yes. The judge says, where do you live? And answer, are you saying the Bronx? Okay, so it's about It's a residentiary issue. Do you live within the residential jurisdiction of that district? So an answer saying the Bronx was accurate. One might move, but it wouldn't raise to a level of removal of a juror. So they're saying if the person at the time when they filled out a form that they got invited to be a juror, they lived in the Bronx, but then subsequently moved, it doesn't mean they would get eliminated as a juror because that's something that normal people do. AUSA says, sure, some of the other cases are more extreme. Here, Rule 24C is operative. AUSA says, given where we are now, it's the government position. We should get to the bottom of the issue. We have at least one question. Does the jurors' employers have a residency requirement? That might explain the answer. Shapiro said that would be harassing the juror to inquire about their employer. AUSA says, I don't understand why the defense is so adverse to asking this question. I wasn't present when this juror was questioned in the Robin room. Okay, so we now find out that the juror was brought to the Robin room, okay? The judge says, if we or I question him, let's do it at the end of the day. Let's bring in the jury, then the witness. So the judge is saying, let's handle this at the end of the day. AUSA says, Ms. Foster is telling the witness about new questions, okay? So, okay, break. They have a break. They come back. It's now 9:46. Jury enters. Judge says, all rise, jury. You can see we're only 50 minutes late today. So we're doing better. He smiles. It's almost like a joke because they were late about 2 to 3 hours yesterday. They started around 11 a.m. They're starting at 9:46 a.m. today. Comey says we're going to introduce the following exhibits under seal: E331, BR-C, -FR, and -HR. They're all going to be under Your Honor's pseudonyms order. AUSA says, in this message, ooh. Wait, what the fuck? What the fuck? Wait. Okay. Wait, who's on the stand? Okay. So, the witness hasn't came in. So let's introduce these text messages involving Christina Karam. Let me read. Puff's phone 2. Make sure Robin pays her rent. KK. Robin said her rent was paid. AUSA says, in the vicinity of Newark Airport, cell phone from Damon Butler. AUSA says, and this message, 3 of my doors are broken. This is crazy. And then they want to read a message from D-Rock. He's coming into the house. He just texted me. I don't think it's a good idea to leave your place. That's not going to make it better. He has my key. I don't feel safe. AUSA still reading these messages. It says the key has a blue fuzzy tail. Just take it. D-Rock says, I'm at the house. Puff is here. You know I can't take your keys from him. Judge says, thank you. The government may now call its next witness. The government calls Special Agent Andre Lamont. He said, where do you work, Andre? Andre Lamont says, I work in HSI in Los Angeles in the Human Trafficking Unit. He said, do you execute search warrants? He said, yes, 50 or 60 so far in my career. Did you execute the 200 South Mableton Drive, LA search warrant? By the way, let's look at that. That's Diddy's crib. That's Diddy's crib right there. Diddy's crib. That's the house that was raided, okay? 200 South Mableton Drive, which, by the way, I think he has up for sale. Agent Lamont says, yeah, HSI New York asked HSI LA to be involved. We executed a search warrant. So here's an exhibit. Please publish it. That's what AUSA says. Says, what are these other buildings? He said, that's a sauna. So he has a sauna on the property, and that's a recording studio. So what rooms were searched? We searched everything. Lamont says, it's a large property. I went through the objects that were seized and entered them into our case management system. AUSA says, we moved to enter into evidence these exhibits. Ignifilo says, objection. They have a sidebar. The sidebar happens. They come back. The judge says the exhibits are going to be admitted. AUSA says, what are these? These are the floor plans of South Mapleton. AUSA says, do you know how accurate these are? Lamont says, I was there. AUSA says, how many manila envelopes were there in the nightstand? Agent says 6. AUSA says, what was written on them? K. Could we publish a stipulation? Testing determined that the K envelope with the shamrock, it was ketamine. Is there a safe in this closet? They're showing a picture. Lamont says, yes, it's gray. There it is in the photo. It says, what's in the safe? It says a password for Combs, plastic bag with substances in it. And there was a stipulations for power of 15 to 16. A testing found the brown pebbles. They were MDMA. They were MDMA. AUSA says, what's in his bag? Lamont says, J&J baby oil, Astroglide, and some lingerie. AUSA says, where else were Astroglide and baby oil found? Lamont says, in the bathroom, in the garage. AUSA says, show the photos. They show a photo of a bookcase full of baby oil and a drawer full of Astroglides. The next photo was a box marked Astroglides in 24 boxes. What were found with these boxes of Astroglides? Lamont says it was found in the garage. AUSA says, how much bottles of baby oil did you find? Lamont says 200. How many bottles of Astroglide did you find in 200 South Mapleton? We found 900. So there was 900 bottles of Astroglides and 200 bottles of baby oil. So let's turn to the firearms you found in the residence. What are these? Lamont said this is a Ruger. This is a Glock pistol, and this is some type of AR-15 platform. Remember, the long gun was disassembled. AUSA says, let's show the photo. What is this? Lamont says, this is a Smith & Wesson rifle. It's on a chair. There's a 3 30-round magazines next to it. Lamont says there's also a 5.11 bag. They said, what's that? He said, just a bag. And AUSA says this. That's rifles and obviously a Mossberg shotgun. By the way, I call that the ring camera, chat. Ain't nothing better than home defense in a Mossberg. Fuck your handgun, fuck your AR. The ring camera, that's the Mossberg. Everybody should have one. Holy. Okay? Ding dong, boom. There we go. AUSA. And this, so that's a drum magazine. It's a large capacity. This one was a 60-round drum. It had 59 rounds of green tip ammunition inside of it. AUSA says, what does green tip ammunition do? It says, well, it's actually body armor piercing ammunition. It said, go look at the boxes of the firearms in the cart next to you. He goes off mic. He goes look at the firearms. So there's a cart. He says, the serial number, where they existed, it didn't match up. AUSA says, how many of the firearms does not have serial numbers? He said, well, one did not, and they hold up a long gun. He says, how are the serial numbers on this one eliminated? He says they were sanded off with a machine. It's smooth, not like it was done with like a screwdriver. AUSA says that's enough. No further questions. And Nifilo, what about you? Nifilo says, are you aware that Combs has security, right? Lamont says, I'm aware. Nifilo says, and every gun and piece of ammo was recovered from the security office, all right? So, yeah. Did you ever find guns in the kids' room? Nah, we ain't found them in the kids' room. Was the security office door locked? He says, not when I got there. Nifilo says, but before. Isn't it important? Did it have a lock? Lamont said it had a knob. Lock, I don't know. AUSA says you have no reason to think the safe was open before you got there, right? He says no. Here we go. So now I think this is broken. Let's go to the other thing. Oh, wait, what the hell? Is it lunchtime already? I guess it is. Matthew Russell's talking again. Give me a second.
Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here, midday on Friday, June 13th, day 23 of U.S. versus Sean Combs, here in the Southern District. This is the street just off to the side, but it seemed like a good time to say the big news of the day, apparently, was the arrival of Kanye West at the trial. He appeared mid-morning in a white jacket and white pants. It caused a lot of consternation. There was a lot of security suddenly in the courthouse. People were told, what they could and couldn't do. He was taken up to the overflow room. He didn't stay long, frankly. Might have been better for him to come yesterday. And those who read Inner City Press online or the forthcoming book of Week 5 will know why that is. But he did show up, and I heard somebody mumbling that he might come back Monday. I don't know. We'll have to see. He made his appearance. But on the stand now, there was a special agent who searched the house in Los Angeles, found cases of Astroglide and guns. Now, Mark Agnifilo said the guns were all in a safe, and they should have had the agent that actually took them out of the safe come, but that agent didn't come. So this agent testified, and Agnifilo hammered it home that these guns were in a safe, and he said it's not clear to him how they're even relevant if the guns were legal. One had the serial number filed off. That's sure to come up at closing. But then Jonathan Perez, currently on the stand, still on direct. He'll be cross-examined too. This might be the rest of the day, in fact. He was a personal assistant. He was working in both Los Angeles and Miami. The main focus so far is that he stumbled upon on an iPad video of the witness known as Jane having sex with someone, not Mr. Combs, and Mr. Combs present and watching. Now, when he found this, he says he took it to Mr. Combs, who deleted it, but then sometime thereafter, Christina Karam, who is not yet...
Wait, what? Oh, chat, we got to read this message first. Oh, he's breaking out some other shit. My bad. The thing got fractured. Hold on. So there's some tea right here, chat. Let's go. So AUSA says, Mr. Perez, is this your text message? Jonathan Perez says, wait. Who's Perez? What the fuck? Chat, what just happened? This whole thing's like fractured. Hold on. Oh my God. Where do we end off with this? Chat? Yeah, Twitter's fucking us up. Sorry, chat. Just give me a second. I want to make sure we're sequentially getting to everything. So the first thing was 4 hours ago. We want to know exactly, because Lamont was, okay. So this is Lamont. Okay, bet. Here we go. So this is Lamont. So bet. Woo. This is Lamont. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. Is there a safe in the closet? Okay, passport. Okay, cool. Let's keep it going. What's in this bag? Astroglide. They found 200, 900. Okay, bet. Firearms. Okay, cool. Ignifilo says there's a knob on lock. He said, I don't know. There's no reason to think there's a safe. He says no. We don't get nothing else after that. What the fuck? So, but it's 2 hours ago. So let's try to connect it. Okay. Agent Lamont says, we brought in a locksmith, but I didn't see him touch the safe. Ignifilo says, we're in Manhattan. We don't know a lot about guns. Sorry. The judge says withdrawn. Ignifilo says, this was a gun safe? Lamont says, yes, it's designed for that. Ignifilo says, why no photo of opening it? Lamont says, SRT goes in first. Ignifilo says, so because this is protocol, we don't have any photographs. Do you use a body cam? Lamont says no. Ignifilo says, in your human trafficking work, have you ever dealt with Astroglide before? Lamont says no, only in this case. Ignifilo laughs and says, okay. The judge says, no comments, please. Ignifilo says, so the baby oil was in the garage, right? Lamont says, it was Astroglide in the garage. Ignifilo says, are you from LA? Lamont says, yes. Ignifilo says, enjoy, brother. No more further questions. There was no redirect. Again, there's not much to really question an agent who executes a search warrant. The search warrant happens. That's it. What more is to do, okay? AUSA says, do any of the firearms not have serial numbers? Wait, I thought there's no redirect. Oh, there's no redirect. Yeah, this is odd. My bad, chat. Like, this whole thing is just scuffed. Okay. Then I guess they take a break. They said they're back for Jonathan Perez. I guess this is the next witness. Jonathan Perez is going to take the fifth. Fuck. This thing is scuffed, Chad. My bad. It's not me. It's how they have this thing written. Okay. Yeah, this is scuffed. Yeah, like, what is this replying to? Post is unavailable. What? Anyway, somebody named Jonathan Perez gets called. Don't know who he is. He invokes his Fifth Amendment, right? AUSA says, do you intend to assert your right as explained? Yes. Judge says, I'm going to enter the order of immunity, so this guy gets immunity. Comey says, my colleagues tell me that Combs has been nodding during the cross. Please instruct him. So it looked like Diddy keeps doing this. And remember, the judge already warned him, like, yo, we might remove you from the courtroom. Stop looking at jurors. Stop doing too much. Diddy looked like he can't just sit still. Like, Diddy still got that, you know what I mean? He wanna do all that, you know what I mean? He do want to do all that type of shit. Okay, cool. All right, look like they took a break. All right, man, this is all over the place. Oh, boy, all inner city pressure shit is scuffed today. Okay. Okay. Let's finish playing this video.
Finally, after the government's going to agree to the statement that they proposed, but you can be the judge, and in fact, we should be tweeting it pretty quickly, pretty soon.
No, that's Jesus Christ. Chat, y'all gotta just give me some understanding.
Or
here.
Matthew
Usually the text thread runs sequentially. It's fucked today.
hammered at home that these guns were in a safe, and he said it's not clear to him how they're even relevant if the guns were legal. One had the serial number filed off. That's sure to come up at closing. But then Jonathan Perez, currently on the stand, still on direct. He'll be cross-examined too. This might be the rest of the day, in fact. He was a personal assistant. He was working in both Los Angeles and Miami. The main focus so far is that he stumbled upon on an iPad video of the witness known as Jane having sex with someone, not Mr. Combs, and Mr. Combs present and watching. Now, when he found this, he says he took it to Mr. Combs, who deleted it.
Okay, so there's a staffer named Perez.
But then, sometime thereafter, Christina Karam, who has not yet appeared in this trial, but has been mentioned very many times, Christina Karam interviewed and kind of interrogated him about who else had seen the video, was he the source, because they started being blackmailed about the video. So I don't see where they're going yet, but it's interesting, and it harkens back to, I think it was Capricorn Clark, who was hooked up to a lie detector machine in an empty office on Broadway with security of Combs. So this is a pattern. They're showing a pattern of a kind of roguelike organization. It's crazy. This guy wanted to be a personal assistant to Sean Combs. The next thing you know, he's setting up hotel rooms with Astroglide and getting cross-examined about these weird freak-off videos. So be careful the job that you wish for. In any event, we're going back in, and Book 5 is well along. We've actually...
Okay. So this Jonathan Perez guy is a staffer, and it looks like he may have found videos of... Why is this shit so scuffed, bro? I need to find stuff from 2 hours ago. Give me a second. Oh my God, this is fucking me up. Yeah, this shit is scuffed. Okay, I think I got it. Maybe? All right. Okay, I'm probably not getting the full message here, but Jonathan Perez gets immunity. He gets on the stand. AUSA says, "Is this your text message?" Jonathan says, "Yes, it's me, KK, and Joey." AUSA says, KK asked, "How's the setup going? How much longer y'all need?" What'd you write back? I wrote, "I got some fruits, shakes, and I'll ask Jane about outfits." So now this is kind of going into this idea that it's a RICO. If you believe that the freak-offs is a sexual commercial act, which I kind of believe, but do I believe is coerced and forced? I don't know. And that would... You need all those things to be true for it to be sex trafficking, right? Okay. So it looks like this guy is, at this point, remember, this is 2022 and after. Diddy is no longer having his personal assistants do it. Diddy is having his, chief of staff, Christina Karam, have other people set it up. And they're setting it up not even with secrecy and privacy. They're like, yo, ask her what outfit she want to wear for Diddy, right? So, this now is seeming organizational. So we got fruits, we got shakes. We'll ask Jane about the outfits. AUSA says, then KK asked, "Is the room done yet?" How'd you respond? I wrote, "The room is done. Now I'm going to the store." I said, "What store were you going to?" Perez says, "The adult store." AUSA says, afterwards, KK asked about the cleanup. Cleanup of what? Perez says, of the room. AUSA says, "How did you become aware of this video?" Perez says, "A videographer named Brandon showed it to me." He said, "Where did you go?" I took an iPad and I went to the office. What was on the video? Jane was having sex with a black man and Mr. Combs was watching. Okay, so this is a freak off then. So somebody had a video of Daphne having sex with a man with Diddy watching. AUSA says, "Did you tell Combs?" Perez says, "I did. I told him I found it on an iPad and it probably shouldn't be there. He seemed surprised." AUSA says, "What did KK say?" She said in the future I should bring things to her. I described it to her. AUSA says, "Did you speak with her about it again?" KK says she had gotten a call from somebody outside the company talking about the video in some capacity. AUSA says, did you record that conversation? Perez says, no. Were you aware it was recorded? He says, no. AUSA says, show the stipulation, the seizure of Christina Karam's phone. We offer the audio and the transcripts. They play the audio and they stop it. So it looked like Christina Karam had filmed. Christina Karam had not filmed but recorded that conversation with the guy. Why? I think she probably thought that, oh shit, you now have a video of Diddy in this situation. Maybe you're going to use it as blackmail. Let me get some recording of you, right? So they play it. They say, whose voice did you hear, Mr. Perez? He says KK. It's audio of KK saying both time the only person at the house who knew about it was you. Where did you find it? Perez says, Brandon, the shooter. AUSA says, was that you? Perez says, yes. And he's the videographer. Perez says, Brandon was like, something's on the iPad I shouldn't see. I started. KK says, was there anyone else in the theater? Perez says, maybe Gio. KK says, we have camera footage of who was in the house. Perez says, I went to Puff Daddy about it and said, you could delete it. He said, okay, and deleted it. Then I told you. Did you hear anyone else talk about it? Did anyone else ever bring it up? Perez says, no. Perez says, Rob talked about it, but he said he didn't want to see it. Why did you not want to delete it? That's what AUSA asked Perez. Perez says, it wasn't my role. There's another audio played. Perez says, there should be an investigation. Mr. Combs thought he might be compromised in some way. His phone data. AUSA says, let's pull this one up for the jury next, okay? There's audio of Perez saying, I told Rob I found something private on the iPad. He said he didn't want to know. KK says, was there anyone in the theater except you all and Gio? Perez says, no. Was Chef in the theater? Perez says, yes. AUSA says, why didn't you say Chef K was there? Perez says, I wanted to minimize things. So I guess the chef was there, but he lied to KK. He said he was trying to minimize things. AUSA says, did anyone ask you again? Yes, Fahim did. He asked me what happened when I found the video of Jane. AUSA says, how did you know that? How were you aware that Fahim knew? Are you aware that Fahim knew? He says, no. Interesting. This whole tweet shit is scuffed today, chat. We're scuffed on tweets. Let's go to Lauren Conlin. Oh, she just uploaded something. Here we go, chat.
Day 23, U.S. versus Sean Combs, and Kanye West was in the building. However, he was not in the courtroom. He shows up, he gets out of the car, it's like a whole big media frenzy, and he goes through security where you have to give up your phone, all this stuff. But there's a very strict process to get into the courtroom, and you have to be on a list.
So the Diddy and Cassie situation has been getting freakier and freakier by the day. The more and more I hear about these allegations, Diddy is a freaky man, the king of the freak-offs. And Cassie, you feel me, she was young, vulnerable. But like what Ak said, she could have left. Like, Diddy was not holding her well. This is what's hard for me. Allegedly, Diddy wasn't holding her hostage, but she said on the video that came out in the hotel where he hit her over and drug her back, she was trying to leave one of the freak-offs. And Diddy said, oh no, you're not going to leave the freak-offs. You got it. Yeah. Wait till the dude bust a nut, allegedly. Then all over you, then scrape it off, go in the other room and rub it on my nipples. That's what he wanted. It sounds so crazy to say, but that's what Diddy wanted. Like, we seen him in the robe. I thought he was just fresh out the shower, but allegedly he was probably butt naked. I'm surprised there was no baby oil on her or him, or she wiped it off. That's why he was so mad. It was no baby oil on. Hey, man. I genuinely feel bad for Cassie. I feel bad for her husband too, because he has to be in court and he's listening to all these things. And I don't really think Cassie's lying about anything. Like, Cassie just seems like a nice girl, probably like gentle, innocent, like, and she just wanted a career. Like, man, I'm struggling here because I want to be very, very honest about everything, like my point of view. I don't think Diddy was the best of best people, and I think everything he did to Cassie was wrong, and it was definitely manipulative and all that stuff. But like, is it sex trafficking though? Like, this is what he's charged for. Like, domestic violence, yes. Assault, yes. Like, probably a bunch of other crazy stuff, yes. But sex trafficking, bro, I don't know if you could say he was sex trafficking. But it's only day 2 of the trial. And I'm gonna be very, very unbiased about every single thing I say. It's day 2 of the trial. Diddy is he's there every day. They say that he's looking white as hell, he's gray as hell. He's, you feel me? They said he was looking at Cassie the whole time. But day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe 2 weeks later, there might be someone else taking the stand, and we don't know how that's gonna go. Maybe like 3 days later, there's gonna be a new person taking the stand, and they just expose everything about Diddy. Like, we don't know fully everything Diddy's done yet. Like, there might have been men that he was having free calls with. Like, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Like, Act was the line about what he said. Diddy should just came out and said that he was a flexible, bro. He should just said he was bisexual, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lie. And what Act said, bro, all these rappers gotta come out who was around Diddy, like really, really hung around Diddy and was like really cool with him. They need to come out and like, yeah, bro. You gotta defend yourself, your integrity. You feel me? But your boy Big Act News. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And do you feel like Diddy's innocent, or do you feel like he's guilty? And we're talking about sex trafficking. Like, we're not talking about is he a good person or not. Do you think he's guilty of sex trafficking, Cassie? It's your boy Big Act News, and I'm out.